quarterback's decision on Matt. Just went into that, and is the plan still to maybe bring him back in if possible?
Yeah, we just have to see if he clears today. We'll see what happens. That was it's a tough decision. I like Matt as a person. Anytime you have a guy that you take and you bring in, you're developing, you see progress, it's tough, but you're just trying to keep your best 53. So, and really, I tell you what, over the last couple of days, we've been going through this process with the coaching staff. What's the fit? And really, the big change started last year when we hired Frank. He put the staff together, free agency, the draft. We're all getting on the same page, and we had to turn the page to get to players that fit our scheme. And probably more defensively this year, that affects a lot of those guys, just going from 4-3 to 3-4, even though there's some carryover in there. It's important to make the right decisions, and it really doesn't matter how the guys get here. It's just like, who's the best fit for the team, who can help us win. That's all we're focused on. So it's been a busy process. It's always hard this time of year, especially when you know the guys like we do. You spend so much time with them. You have to talk to them and give them feedback. That's tough. But now we're putting the roster together, and we're looking forward to Atlanta, and we're excited about this year. So
is that the plan then? If he clears waivers, your intention is to sign him to the practice squad?
Yeah, we'd like to. Quarterbacks, you never know. Sometimes you saw a lot of quarterbacks just the last few days that didn't get claimed. It just takes one team, so you never know.
You have an open roster spot. That's
Right.
something you might keep open for, I don't know, what's the plan there?
Yeah, there's a chance we keep it open right now because we're still setting the practice squad right now. We have guys flying in. Things are fluid. You have to take physicals, pass physicals, and those type of things. But yeah, we'll see. The roster is still going to be fluid here over the weekend, and hopefully, it's pretty well set. Monday going into a game week, but we'll take the next 72 hours or so to finish things.
You guys kept several young offensive linemen in favor of instead of veteran guys.
Right.
The decision there.
I think, when you have a coach like James Campen, who's really good at developing guys, our scouts did a good job, identifying Ricky Lee and Nash, and, we have Zavala. That's a really good group. It's a really young group, and even Brady is a young guy in that group, in terms of experience. So we like this. We think this is a group that we can grow with going forward, especially with Bryce, to have that group stick together. But man, it's young. So, we claimed Throckmorton. He's going through a process right now of doing the physicals. We're trying to get him out there. He's played a lot of ball, but we're always going to be looking to maybe add one more vet to that group just to kind of beef it up. We'll see how it goes. It has to be the right player. And when that player is right, when he's out there, we'll take a shot.
Any plans on having Lee or Jensen, become more versatile and playing both sides of the line?
I think, yeah, exactly. And I think the guards have to play both spots. I think Ricky would be like a swing tackle. He's got really good feet. He's built like a left tackle, and he has left tackle feet. But you have to learn to play the right side as well, especially if you're going to be up on the active roster.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Lee's snaps in the preseason were all on the left side. Has the transition started to move to
They'll start working him more probably on the right side now. I think, early on, because Michael Jordan was here, and all of our offensive linemen really played different spots. You saw Michael playing left guard, right tackle. We're always moving guys around. Caden Mays has versatility. That's one thing that James Campen, really pushes is that versatility. So, but yes, to answer your question, he will start on the right side, start working there.
I know you're always going to say, listen, we're looking to upgrade every position, but as you look at this roster right now, what are the positions that you feel like maybe you need to get better at?
Yeah, I don't want to go too far into that just because teams do watch this. We know where we need to get better, and I think if you look at it, there's some spots that we can add, but we do like where the roster's at, but there are some pieces we need to add.
When did Smith Marset pop onto your guys' radar, and what does he add to that receiver room?
Yeah, so we were looking for a guy that could either play a position, whether it's a corner, receiver, running back, that could be that return guy. So that's where he first came on the radar. The scouts brought him up. We followed him throughout the preseason. The scouts really did a nice job with him. And then the more you watch him, the more you say, wow, this guy is he's impressive as a receiver. there were some relationships around the league where we knew a little bit about the guy personally, and then we took a shot on him. And he had a really, really good preseason as a receiver, good return ability. And then meeting the guy, he's got a ton of energy, just a ball of fire when he came in. So he's been fun. And we saw him yesterday on the practice field. He was really smooth tracking the ball and catching it. And so I think returning ability is probably kind of where he's going to make his most impact early. But Sean Jefferson was really excited about the receiver and the way he separated. So he's a nice prospect.
Scott, seems like y'all have moved, speaking of kind of moving on to change schemes and so on, seems like you've moved on from a number of Matt Rule era draft picks. Is that fair?
There are draft picks. We're all in this together. And that was part of the thing. We're not going to focus on who was drafted, how they got here. It's all about who can help us right now. But everyone that's in the building, and it's unfair to Matt to say that. So we all own that. But we're getting better. I do, looking at the roster this year, I mean, we have free agents that are making the team. We have 3 potential starters that are rookie draft picks. So everyone that's in the building that's a part of that is also in the building right now that's a part of something special that we're building, that we're excited about.
How far away do you, as you look at the roster right now, how far away do you think you guys are? I mean, is this a better roster than last year's?
Going through it this morning, I sat down with Dan. We went position by position, pulled out the 2022 roster to this one. And, for the most part, we had mostly positive. There were a couple of equals, and there was 1 negative. But overall, I just thought, you know what? We're making progress. It's where we want to be. Every year, I say our goal is to win the NFC South. And I think even with all the new faces, the new staff, and all the changes that are taking place, that's our goal. And I think, if we played our ability, that's definitely within reach.
Scott, regarding the defensive line, do you feel comfortable with Deshaun Williams having that do-it-all role and Tuttle holding down the middle?
Yeah, I think just overall, those defensive linemen, there's going to have to be a rotation in there. It's going to be hard to ask any defensive lineman to take 45 snaps, a game. So the 2 young guys, Thurman and LeBron, they're going to have to help out. Probably a little bit light there right now, probably add 1 spot, but yeah.
Anticipate adding some experience there?
We're looking at every avenue to add to that group right now.
Scott, there's a long list of very good quarterbacks that were started day one and struggled year one. And I'm curious how you measure Bryce's success and if you feel like you've done enough to set him up as best you can for that success.
Yeah, I think with what we did, where our offensive line finished last year, there's going to be more cohesion than you saw maybe in preseason. There's a little bit of things happening in there. The more those guys work together, tighter they're going to be. I think we surrounded him with the right receivers. You saw Thielen out there. You haven't seen him with the full offense yet. You haven't seen him with Miles in the backfield. You haven't seen him with all the receivers out there. And, kind of held back a few things, too, in preseason. But what we've seen so far, we're pleased with. Every quarterback, whether it's Bryce or Peyton Manning, there's always ups and downs. But the thing about, Bryce is he's just right here. And this is not going to – he won't be fazed by it. He'll keep learning, keep getting better. And he's surrounded by a great staff, so we have high hopes for him.
What caused the lack of cohesion along the line?
I think it's just, it's a new scheme. There's new faces. There's new calls they have to make with each other. Just, you saw the last 10 games last year, the last 12 games, that was a really strong group, especially running the ball. This year, I think they're still just kind of getting used to working together and making their calls. So I think that'll tighten up the more we play.
Going back to the quarterbacks, back in 12 when y'all had Russell at Seattle, what was your feeling at this point in the year? Had y'all put any stories about how you put the right pieces around and make you feel like he could win right away with him?
Yeah, it took a second. I can't remember the game. I think it was Arizona that we played earlier with him. It took 6, 7, 8 games. I think it was we played Buffalo, maybe up in Toronto, and that's when it just started to really take off. Then it's going to take a few weeks. When you have a 53-man roster and you have 24 new faces on it and, new coaches, it's going to take a little time in the beginning. But, this group will come together. I think it's going to be a strong group, finishing up.
What did you learn about that experience as far as putting the right pieces around him that you has he followed that blueprint here at all? Or?
No, I think, there's always, you always kind of borrow from a blueprint, but it's different people, different faces, different schemes. So there's adjustments. This is Frank's scheme. And so we're building towards that. So But yeah, there's little things that you can use.
Scott, it's more of a league-wide question, but, you know, 3 of the top 4 picks were quarterbacks, and they're all gonna start week 1. I mean, that hasn't always been the way in the league. It's kind of gone in phases, but
Yeah.
why do you think teams are more willing now to maybe put that top draft pick out week 1 and play him?
I think there's a number of reasons. You know, one, these kids are taking so many more reps, you know, 7-on-7 or in football growing up. It's more year-round now. I think when we played, it was during the season, then you went and played basketball, you went and played baseball. These guys are getting in so many more throws, and there's so much more coaching, you know, at the youth level, and the high school level, and college level. They're doing a great job. And then I think there's a financial aspect of it too. Like when you draft these kids, you want to get them out there, and I think they're ready. You can't just you have to treat each quarterback separately. Some guys aren't maybe emotionally capable of it. They're physically capable. Maybe they can learn, but I think this group overall is a pretty strong group. So I think teams are more willing to be aggressive putting them out there.
Scott, having cut your teeth on the scouting side, what did Gil Brandt mean to your career, if anything, and just if you would speak on Gil?
Gil's awesome. You know, he's someone I saw, you know, at the combine every year. Would talk to him. He'd call me on the phone. He was sending golf balls, you know, just little things. Just a brilliant man. Really changed the scouting process. You know, as far as computers and just how he went about it. Looking at not just football players but athletes overall. He's I think one of the first to dip into basketball players and really look for the developmental type guys. So Gil's a special guy.
When will you hear on waivers today? Is that noon or 4?
4 o'clock. So we'll know at that point what's going on there.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.